This is Anthony Pascal.
And this is Laurie Elster, and this is the All Access Star Trek podcast. Today, I can't believe it, we are at the Starfleet Academy Season 1 finale, Rubincon. Not Rubicon, Rubincon. Which is crazy. It's hard to believe we've gotten to the end of the season. We also have... Tony did some great interviews with Alex Kurtzman and Noga Landau, the showrunners, a couple of different interviews, and we'll talk about those. But before we get into all of that, I want to hear about Tony's adventures at the Saturn Awards.
Well, I was barely in the award ceremony itself. It's all red carpet, really.
And press room, too, right?
And press room. But the red carpet was typical. It was hot out. People were complaining about that. But our area of that was slightly shadier, and it was overly crowded. So there was a lot of jostling and am I in your camera line kind of stuff. And
I'm used to that. They give you like a sign with your name on it, and that's as much space as you have.
Yeah. And we were pretty far down the press line. So, but no, I mean, I ended up talking to about 8 different people, 7 Star Trek people, 1 non-Star Trek person on the red carpet, which would be...
Say who it is, because it's a good one.
Katie Sackhoff.
Nice.
And we had this one, I mean, it was a surreal moment. So earlier when Katie had walked by, a butterfly like landed on her or something and then flew away, and then while I was talking to it landed on my hand, and then she reached out her hand to touch my hand to have me give her the butterfly. It was like I was like, oh my god, I'm touching Starbuck, or she's touching me, but it flew away. But it was this beautiful moment, and then she talked about how she really wants to be in Star Trek, and
she really should be in Star Trek. There's no reason. I think they'd be smart to put her in because, fans love her. She would love it. So it makes sense. She's the right person to be on Star Trek.
And she's a genuine fan. I mean, she's rewatching her own show now, Battlestar. I mean, she's a sci-fi person, and she has her podcast. Yeah.
I've been meaning to check out her podcast because whenever I see bits of it, I'm like, this is fantastic. So I should probably go listen to full episodes.
But I talked to, stuff that's already on the site. In fact, the thing that kind of got all the buzz going was I had a good chat with Henry. Henry Alonso Myers is the co-showrunner of Strange New Worlds. And we talked about a couple of things, one of which is on the site, one of which isn't on the site yet, which is Star Trek Year 1. He gave us an update on that.
Yeah, well, so should we just talk about it?
Yeah, sure.
I mean, we're here.
Yeah. Yeah, so Akiva in the fall, I think you and I or one of us talked to Akiva. And he said, we haven't pitched yet, but we want to. And now Henry has confirmed they have actually pitched the show to Skydance, and he talked about how they gave them all this stuff. So they have an outline of the show, and it is now officially a pitched show. Before it was I think Akiva called it a dream. Now it is a pitched show.
The other thing he told you that's very important is that the sets are still standing.
Yeah. Absolutely. And, which it wasn't the case for Picard. Now, Picard, there were special reasons. They were renting those stages in Santa Clarita. As soon as Patrick Stewart walked off the set, they didn't need them anymore.
like dismantling things around poor Kate Mulgrew on her last day of Voyager. Just breaking pieces off and walking away.
But it was still heartbreaking for Terry and, all Dave Blass to watch them destroy the sets.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're still standing, and they don't, like, some people, they need them for Academy. It's like, no, they don't. They have to drive all the way across town. I mean, it's further than across town because you could pronounce the name of where CBS
is it a
stages.
Mississauga? Is that where it is?
Yeah, and then they're at Pinewood in Toronto. So it's a bit of a schlep, right?
It is indeed a schlep.
They did once use in season 1 the bridge of the Enterprise to redress for the Miyazaki, but they do not need those stages for season 2 of they could live without them. And he said, yeah, that's part of the big decision. They've got to decide they can't leave them up forever.
No. Can I run over and go play on them?
Because exactly. They shoot like Sonequa show was shot at CBS stages. They use those stages for all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, no, Guillermo del Toro has a huge area carved out there for a lot of his stuff also. So they're still standing. It's nuts.
Yeah. So that's not going to last forever, but he didn't have a timeline on that.
He did say something that I think is good for people to remember, because you and I and everybody has been talking a lot about like, they finished Star Trek production and this is a pivot point and whatever. And it is, and that's true. But there's also still a lot of Star Trek left to air and a lot still being edited. So for the people who work on those shows, it's still not the actors, but it's still ongoing work for a lot of people, and we have a lot left to see. So we have 26 is it 6 episodes in the final season?
Yeah, so it's 26.
So 26 episodes of Star Trek, of produced Star Trek already just left. So
and look on the site soon. Maybe Friday I'll put up the stuff he had to say, because I wanted to do the Strange New World stuff for season 4 after Academy wrapped up. So he talked a little bit about season 4 and season 5 and how they're different than season 3. And so season 4 is different than season 3. He said it's less genre, and he promised more Strange New Worlds, like literal Strange New Worlds. And
good.
And then season 5 is different again because, as I said, we're landing the plane and we're kind of lining everything up to essentially flow into TOS. So look for that. I talked to Tunde. Tunde talked a lot about season 2 of Academy. He, too, was very optimistic about the future of Academy and hopefully getting a 3rd season. Those stages are still up, too, obviously.
Yeah, I feel like they just walked away.
Yeah. But, even though Pinewood did name one of the stages the Star Trek stage, that's only because they've been paying them rent for 11 years.
That isn't because Paramount didn't say you should name your stage the Star Trek stage, but they were celebrating all the work that has come in there. Yeah.
So for the first time in 11 years, there is no work slotted for those stages. So every month they have to pay those leases, and that stuff adds up.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the Tunde interview is already on the site, right? Yeah.
It is. He said some interesting things, actually. He said in season 2, they used 3 AR walls at the same time. and he talked about a new set too.
Oh, that's right. Because they never really had a med bay. They've used a kind of science lab to pretend to be the med bay sometimes. And like in episode, in the season finale, there's just this like room with one like
chair.
Recliner in it. Yeah. And to treat the doctor, they brought him to her office, so.
Right. Because a lot of the ship was gone.
But it is
you would
weird.
think that there would be a.
It's like it's a Star Trek show,
and
you don't need a transporter room. They have the biggest set in the world, and yet they didn't bother making a med bay. And one of the characters is the doctor. So they gave him a science lab, but they didn't give him a med bay.
Well, so they're fixing that. So that's nice. I like that you asked him about the quarry. You asked Tunde if they were going to shoot at the quarry, and he was like, "Nope."
Well, I didn't. I actually asked him, "Please tell me you're not shooting at the quarry," because we're so sick of the quarry. And he said, "No, there's some cool new location that they shot the season 2 premiere at."
Right.
But it sounds like that may be the only location shooting. How many times did they go on location for Academy season 1? I have to think about that. They did it for the the Klingon episode. They went out into the woods and did some.
And the first episode had some.
They went to the Royal Gardens for Bajor.
Bajor.
Yeah, there hasn't been a lot though.
No, but that's not what this show is.
No, and they got the biggest set in the world, and so they don't necessarily need it. But
hopefully we'll get to see Beta Z next season.
Yeah, they like to fly around Beta Z.
We like to get really close to Beta Z, but not actually go there. We like to send people there and hear about it later.
Oh, by the way, just getting back to the Saturn Awards, there was some kind of news so Strange New Worlds was nominated for 4 awards and came up with none unfortunately. So it was nominated for Best Show. Ethan was nominated. Paul Wesley was nominated. And
Christina Chung.
And and most of them, I mean, there was a good collection of Star Trek celebrities at the event.
A good range.
Yeah, the franchise was getting this Hall of Fame award, and so Shatner was there, and they did this weird thing where Shatner went up and accepted the award, and then 30 minutes later, everyone else went up, Alex and Rod Roddenberry and, Jerry Ryan and a whole bunch of people. Carl Urban was there. It was, it was crazy. I don't know why Shatner accepted the award 30 minutes earlier solo, but it's probably just some weird Shatner thing.
Well, now, right. Like I'm thinking either he said, I'll do it, but I'm not going up with a group of people. Or we all know he just had surgery, so maybe he was rushing off for that.
I don't know. Because I was like, where was he? Because I saw Shatner come and go, and I'm like, where was Alex and Rod? And then they all showed up later, and that was really nice. And I got a photo with them backstage. It was nice to see a nice collection of celebrities, and it was great seeing Carl. Unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to talk to Carl.
No.
And there was a nice thing where people were talking about Star Trek on stage.
I love that. So
Vince Gilligan, huge fan of Vince Gilligan, right? From Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul and Pluribus,
which I have very much enjoyed.
He's a huge Star Trek fan. I think he was in some Star Trek documentary once. I remember, he's definitely a fan. And he talked about how important it was to him as growing up and becoming a writer and all that kind of stuff.
I would love to see him write a Star Trek episode.
Well, I was really, because he did come back to the press room, but they were limiting questions. So I was so ready to ask him, do you have a Star Trek pitch in your back pocket?
Yeah.
And have you ever gone into pitch? There's no way you don't take a meeting with Vince Gilligan, and he's probably got like 10 Emmy Awards. I don't know how many he's got, but he's got a lot of them.
Yeah, he does.
He's a fantastic writer.
His shows are very successful.
Yeah,
and critically acclaimed. Yeah.
Yeah, I would pay good money to see a Vince Gilligan Star Trek show.
Yeah.
Anyway, so no, it was a good experience. The press room was a bit of a bust because I couldn't get any questions in except to Terry, and none of the no Star Trek people won. So
right. So they didn't. So they don't send them back there, right? They send the winners back there.
Yeah, and not every winner goes back. Tom Cruise doesn't do the press room.
Yeah, I can imagine.
He was there though, but
he also probably doesn't show up unless he's winning something.
James Cameron did the press room though. Kathleen Kennedy didn't do the press room, so it's like kind of a little hit and miss on who does the press. George Lucas doesn't do the press room.
Yeah,
but he was there. So.
Right. I know it was a crazy, amazing collection and very star-studded for the Saturns.
Yeah, I don't know this to be true, but I assume that's all one of the reasons why they give out these special awards. Like, hey, we'll give you a special award.
Yeah, of course they do that. Listen, I worked on this is going to make me sound so old. I worked on the very first MTV Movie Awards, and we got people there by telling them they won. I mean, they really did win. Like, we did a thing, and I think it's all voted on. You'd think I'd remember, but it was a long time ago. But we told people that they won so they would show up.
Which is why when I saw Ethan and Christina, but not Paul, I'm like, oh, so Ethan and Christina must have won. Paul didn't win. And then, and what was really sad is that Ethan lost his best supporting actor to Skarsgård, the older Skarsgård from Andor.
Okay.
Like right before Ethan and Christina were set to be presenters. So Ethan had to go on stage right like 10 seconds after he lost. So I felt, but they were very good and had banter, and it was great. Anyway, let's talk about what else is there to talk about.
Well, Alex, one of the things that you've already put up an article about this. So you talked to Alex, who also is optimistic. I like all this optimism. Everybody's so optimistic. Who's optimistic about Paramount Skydance and says they've had nothing but support, is the quote, and that they have had very specific discussions about the shows that exist, about ongoing shows, about possible new shows. But he said because they are in the middle of making decisions about everything well beyond Star Trek, obviously, as we know, that's why they're not, everything's up in the air while it's being worked out.
it sounds like the Warner Brothers thing is throwing everything for a curveball, but he said he was going to have talks after he was finished season 2 of Academy, and those have begun. So what do we learn from that? What we learn is it isn't just a goodbye, Alex situation.
Right. Yes, correct.
Which easily could have been the case. I mean, that's what they did with JJ and with I forget the people who were working on the Origin movie.
Oh, right.
What's the line in Hollywood? We're going in a different direction.
Right. Yeah.
And I can, there's.
Let's put a pin in that. We're going to go in a different direction.
Yeah. But now, of course, it's more complicated with Alex in that you can't say goodbye to Alex because
he's still working there.
Yeah, he has 26 episodes to deliver. So no matter what, he's working on Star Trek for 26 more episodes of post-production.
But I will say, if there was no possibility of anything, they are not wasting their time having meetings.
Exactly. So I couldn't put a percentage chance on it. I do not think that he's going to get another 5-year contract to be in charge of all Star Trek TV. I would say that's, less than 50%. But I think it might be more than 50% that he gets some kind of contract to do something.
Maybe just continue Academy. Who knows?
Who knows?
Right. Because I think it's hard because the people making the decisions, I don't know anything about how they do it. But if you're looking at the whole track record and the whole thing, you might say, okay, this isn't the guy to be in charge of everything. Well,
especially if you are moving in a new direction. I just don't think they know what that new direction is yet.
Right. Yeah. So I'm still, my secret hope is that they think that the easiest, smartest, best thing to do is to keep Starfleet Academy going while they figure out what they want to do. Because I'm just so happy with this show that it's killing me to think that it would only get 2 seasons.
What I would do is, I would say to Alex, can you deliver a 3rd and 4th season, shoot them back to back, 8 episodes each.
Oh.
For 35% less money, X% less. So
I think the industry is learning that 8 episodes is not a good season, though.
I don't know. Whatever
it's
the number.
Not. Yeah.
Well, but the reason why I'm saying that is, can you deliver some Star Trek content for us for 2028 for less money than you made when you were shooting it in 2025? And then I would maybe, since they've got the sets and they got the actors, the actors probably have options. I would give Henry and Akiva, just to get Akiva off my back, say, sure, we'll give you a mini series, 6 episodes, Star Trek Year 1, James T. Kirk's first mission, make it buzzy.
And then I wouldn't do that at all. So there you go. I wouldn't spend money on that. But
these are the kind of options they have. And then obviously there's other shows. Like right. Alex is saying, you've got the live action comedy. That would be cheap to make.
Right, but that can't be. The problem with that one is, as if it's the only Star Trek, that can't be the only Star Trek.
Right. Well, I guess what I'm saying is, what are the things they could do that count towards not making a big strategic move with Star Trek TV? Like launching a new show, like a show tied to the new movies, or just a whole new Star Trek show in a new setting with the new cast, kind of like a Discovery, or even, is a big deal.
Right. So it would make sense in the interim to look at what they have if they decide they want to make sure that it keeps going.
Yeah, if they feel like they need content in 2028. It all comes down to, because they run out of content.
Just say Star Trek. I hate the word content.
Sorry, but so as of the end of this year, they'll have 16 episodes left to run in 2027.
Right.
And then that's it. And that sounds like a lot, but basically by August, September 2027,
we're done.
And they could say, fine, we're happy with that. We don't need we don't need anything for the rest of that year. We don't need anything for 2028. We could live without it.
And the logic might even be, before we start something new, we want there to be enough of a break. Like, it's so up in the air right now that we just don't know. Yeah.
So and by the way, you'll be able to hear Alex say all this because it was kind of snuck into my interview talking about the season finale. But I got it in there as an extra bonus question because Alex, who had to go catch a flight, said, I know you've got one more question, because I had that look on my face.
Well, first of all, he knows you have 17 more questions. But I'll say this, like, he's been good to us. like when I walked into the junket for Starfleet Academy, it was 4 minutes with everybody, and I walked in, and as soon as I walked in, they said, "Oh, we've been told you get an additional 3 minutes." So I had 7 minutes, which I always stretch into 1 more minute. Shh, don't tell. But he knows us. He knows. I mean, he's known you for a very long time. He knows me now as well. And he takes our questions seriously. He knows that we're going to ask thoughtful questions, and he wants to give us the time to ask them. So I appreciate that from him for sure.
Yeah. So we'll run that at the end of this after our review. I mean, the only other thing we have to talk about is just a silly thing that
it's fun though.
It's fun though. I've done it, which is Waze, which is a navigation app, which is owned by Google, but it's not Google Maps. Like I usually use Google Maps. This is the other thing that they also own. And they have these themes you could add, one of which is now the Star Trek Academy theme. And what's interesting is it's done old school where it's all pre-recorded and it's Bob Picardo as the doctor.
No, it's not him doing. So what they didn't do was do all the street net. Like, you're not going to get him saying, turn left on Fifth Avenue. You'll get turn left, but you won't get Fifth Avenue.
Right. Because I mean, they would have to do AI. There's no other way to do that.
Right.
Yeah.
Or if like phonetically, who knows what. But yes. So, but I think that's fine. I haven't used it yet because I haven't driven anywhere where I needed directions. I guess I could have plugged it in to go to the grocery store, but I have some road trips planned. So some husband tormenting is on my agenda.
There's a lot of flavor to it when you leave. He has all these like biting commentary about your driving as you're going along. So it's a lot of fun. It's not just go left, go right.
Yeah. Like one of the quotes is turn left. I shouldn't need to explain why. Just do it, please. Stuff like that.
But if there's
fun.
When I tried it, there was like a road hazard and he's like, be careful, cadet. You can't afford to fix your shuttle or something. It's fun stuff. This is Waze, Waze. Just download the app. It's free. This little plugin is free.
It is one of the better ones for real-time traffic.
Right, because it's community-based. So if you see an accident, you type it in and then everyone can see the accident. And people could see your car if you want to share your car. And you could turn your car icon into the Athena icon.
The Athena!
Yeah, so it's fun.
I do have to torment my husband just a little bit on our summer trip.
Okay, so let's talk about the season 1 finale, Rubincon. I like people who are commenting on social media like, hey, that's a typo. It's like, no, it is not. I had to put it in the preview. This is not a typo. Some websites actually thought it was a typo and they changed it when they did their previews.
That's
they did.
Funny. I thought it was a typo when I opened up the screener app and I saw the title. I assumed that it was a typo because they've had typos before. But then I watched it and I was like, oh, yeah, no, it's not a typo.
Yeah. And it actually, so the Rubin thing, which the doctor says, there's a famous astronomer who they named it after her. And she's like, apparently it's controversial that she never got a Nobel not Peace Prize, but a Nobel Prize. Like she's like a very well-regarded astronomer who passed away a few years ago. And I think this was just a nice way to honor her.
I like when they do that.
Yeah.
And to confuse the hell out of everybody. So
exactly. The Rubin particles. Gluons are a real thing though. Gluons are, that was real. What's your high level? What's your high level?
All right. Mine is, I actually thought the story was great. Good, lots of good character stuff. I love the way they tied so much. They were picking up threads a lot from the first episode, but also from throughout the season, just picking up on things. I thought there were a whole bunch of standout performances, and I don't even know who to give the best award to because Tig Notaro is up there with the greats. And here's what I will say. Like, the action was fun. Everything, the story was good. The point of it was very interesting, but I will say that they lost a bit of their balance that they've been so good at, which is there were times that they would stop down the action to have the character development. Now, that character development did always, I think, tie into what the next move would be. So when I watched it the first time, I found those moments frustrating and I was impatient because I'm like, I want to see what's going to happen. And then on a rewatch, when I know what's going to happen, I realized, oh, they're actually not that long and they do get to something. But it did affect the rhythm, I thought.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes it was clunkier. I mean, okay, so first of all, I enjoyed it. I think I liked episode 9. I know I liked episode 9 more, but it was still a pretty solid finale, and it definitely tied everything up in a nice bow. In a way, I felt like it could have worked as, like, if this were a miniseries and it's about Caleb coming to love,
Oh, that would have been the end. Yeah.
how Caleb Meir learned to love Starfleet, then yeah, that story's over. We got it. He loves it. That was good. And yeah, it very much bookended with the season premiere. Little things like Jaden, his little thing about a warrior.
Yes.
And the many other things, but I thought sometimes it just was a little clunky, like the way they did the thing with Sam and Genesis.
That to me was the worst offender of the slowing down. And I think they could have, even though on its own, I really enjoyed, I liked the scene, but I think it brought things to a bit of a halt. And you felt like, why are you having this moment? And I think it could have probably been done better so that they were still moving through things. They didn't have to really stop down.
It was a very talky episode, which of course is classic Star Trek.
I like talky episodes.
So there was not a lot of action. There was a little bit, but I feel like, and the choice to do a courtroom drama was stark, and I think it mostly worked.
Yeah,
mostly worked.
How about doing it in the desecrated atrium?
Oh yeah,
that was a great choice.
Yeah, and then turning it into a broadcast, which has its own connotations as well.
But worked and became an essential part of the story.
Yeah. I think the best bookend scene, which wasn't actually the premiere, was the second episode, was with the MVP, which would be Tig as Jet Reno. She's fixing the warp core and she's fixing Caleb and she's teaching him.
She's so good.
Because this, the theme around all of this is be who you are, accept who you are. That was through all of their stories. Sam's story, everyone's story, Tarima's story. And she was saying, look, Caleb, you're not a dick. You are an arrogant jerk, but really you're a hero. And you need to accept that you do care about people, because not everybody would do that, especially in the Byrne era. Jet was, in command. She had a catchphrase, which was fun.
I didn't catch a catchphrase, but she was grading them as they did things, taking points away, giving them, she was such a teacher that it told you why she teaches there. She's a teacher. She's a natural teacher.
Yeah.
And so it kind of tied up the idea of why is she at the academy? And I'm like, oh, that's why. She's great at it.
Well, and she used it as a structure to keep because it was clear it was a lot of pressure. It was a skeleton crew on a broken ship of unqualified people tasked to save the Federation. And, they were freaking out a little bit, as they should.
And she's not a captain. It was crazy for everybody. She'd been there when they did their bad simulation, when they were bad at it. And I thought they really did well at showing that the cadets are cadets. And so they would screw up or get lost or need a push or whatever because they are cadets, and they still came through. But it would have made no sense if they just jumped into all those positions and been perfect at everything.
Indeed. So I was mostly good with that. And then we had just kind of a whole other story happening in the atrium with this show trial. And I thought it's very Star Trek because Newsbraka, it makes sense that if you're going to battle Newsbraka, it's not going to be a space battle, because that's his whole thing is he's a talker.
No, and I mean, I got just a physical battle for safety is not as interesting to me. This was about something.
Right. Federation was on trial. Ake was on trial. Their ideals were on trial.
The Federation's view of itself. It's important to question even when you think, oh, I have this, like, they do keep conflating, as always, Starfleet and the Federation, but that's nothing new. But to look at the Federation, and which we like to think of as this paragon of virtue in a way, and then say, like, we had to make hard decisions, and sometimes they sucked. And we need to always be looking at those decisions.
Yeah. So Caleb's mom was the judge and jury. It took me a while to let go of she's secretly a bad guy and working with Nuspraka. But about halfway through the trial, I'm like, okay, she really doesn't like Nuspraka, but she doesn't like Ake. No,
and they did a good, because at first when he said, oh, she's going to be the judge, and I was like, oh, well, she'll just save her. But she didn't, and she wouldn't have.
Right. She hates her.
I thought, like, she wasn't convinced. Ake did not convince her because she was so hurt by what had been done to her and the years that had gone by that she was not going to let it go.
Not even the sob story about the guy 1 week away from retirement that she killed.
You know what? That was good, though, because there are always, like, deaths of crew members that we don't know. And like in the original series, and maybe even a little bit of the ones that followed, the end would still be like, ha, 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 the episode's over. Do, 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 do. And then, I thought this is good because she was saying, like, this was a person and I knew him and he died because you wanted to take food.
Yeah. And he was a bad singer and he was from Hawaii. Yeah. I think the trial was good. I mean, it was very risky. It would not have worked if they didn't have the actors they had.
Oh my God, yeah.
You're going to hear this from Alex and Noga. I mean, it sounds to me like this was plan B. There was a plan A, and I bet it was a more traditional shooty. Let's, get into the core and get to the secret, right. And then shoot the guards or whatever it was.
Whatever it is, polarization.
Yeah. And they're like, no, let's do a courtroom thing because we've got these fantastic actors, 3 actors. Let's put them in a room. Let's see what they could do.
And they delivered.
Yeah, they made it work. All 3 of them were fantastic.
They were all fantastic. And the thing about, especially like Tatiana and Holly both, is that they do so much with just their faces. You can see emotions playing out across them. You can see their brain working. You can see them thinking about things and then maybe changing their minds. Like, it's amazing. I mean, Paul Giamatti can do it, but that's not who his character is. Nuspraka is not that guy who's contemplating and thinking. So he's all about shouting and laughing.
Yeah. And I mean, there were lots of other people there. There was one guy, who ended up being in the credits, like one soldier who had a couple lines, but it was really... Yeah,
he was the one who said, like, Caleb's shuttle is approaching and whatever.
Yeah,
that guy.
It was basically those 3 people in this giant room surrounded by these kind of nefarious witnesses who were, he was trying to form his own evil federation, essentially.
Yeah.
And he was using his propaganda network to build his case, and he almost pulled it off too. But obviously there was a commentary about how the media could be manipulated, truth could be, yeah.
It was hardly subtle.
No.
But it wasn't subtle, but I also think it was worth doing. And I think that device, I mean, the headliney stuff going by was the most unsubtle. It was fun to stop and look at it sometimes and read it because there were some fun things in there, and I bet they had fun writing it. But I think the bigger thing was the way that they used, like, he started using the cameras and the broadcast, to use an oldie time word.
He used the word broadcast, didn't he? He said
did he? Maybe.
He said the revolution. Oh, he said the revolution will be televised.
Right, which was yes.
One of his. He is.
He
obsessed.
has some very strange references that he shouldn't really know, but he does, especially for a guy who doesn't know where he was born. But I think that the others used it to their advantage. Like, Caleb used it once where he was like, oh, you're going to silence me in front of all these people. And that's why he was able to speak. And Ake used it once when she was like, do all of you want to be, is this the guy, this angry child with his finger on the trigger, is this the guy that you want to follow? And yes, obvious parallel.
Wink, wink.
Yes, but also legit point to everyone.
Yes.
So, and even if it was completely out of context and we weren't living in the times we were in, it still would have worked.
Yeah. So, I mean, it was all very Star Trek-y, doing a trial, highfalutin ideas. Was it drumhead level? No, but it was good.
No, and honestly, this live action era has struggled with season finales. And I would say that this is probably the best so far.
High praise, but they are better at starting episodes than ending them. And in fact, that's something that Alex talks about. Is it's easier to pose a question than to answer a question. They obviously felt they didn't have the goods and changed things up at the end, which is why I think we got a kind of unusual. I think they probably had a cliched standard finale and got rid of it.
Yeah, good.
Good for them to realize that 2 weeks before shooting, which is not long.
No. And we'll get to that when we talk about the interview after we listen to it. But there were some strong character moments that also moved things along that were great. And the thing that stood out to me so much was when Ake wants to tell Anisha that Caleb is still alive after they've been kidnapped by New Spraka. And she walks up to her and she's whispering. She doesn't want anyone else to know. And so she has to take her in this embrace, which that Anisha just wants to kill her. Like she has hated this woman for so long. And Tatiana's acting is so good because she plays it out in her face of like the horror of actually being touched by this person, let alone hugged by her when she hates her. And she's telling her something that she's probably having trouble believing and then has to believe. It was just a really powerful moment that had a lot going on with very little dialogue.
I think almost all the stuff in the atrium was good. I liked the, getting back to the other ship, the saucer, as it were. I think the Terima moment worked, but Genesis and the chair needing to pee didn't work. I didn't understand
why they did that. Like, I just didn't understand it. Like, it wasn't, if it's really funny, do it, but it wasn't that funny and it was undermining, I thought. Yeah. It didn't create a light moment. Like the Tig stuff, she created some lighter moments because that's who she is, but that one just didn't work.
Darum, they didn't know what to do, so they're like, Darum's new arc is he's going to learn how to be a pilot, and he gets a little hero moment when he basically recreates a shot from. So he was watching the Blu-ray of Star Trek 2009, and he perfectly recreated the shot of the Enterprise in was that Jupiter or Saturn? God, I feel bad. I should know that, but anyway, a gas giant, and they did a great job of recreating that shot. It looked great.
No, he did good. And they started out like bickery and then they all started supporting each other. So that was good too.
Jaden, I guess his hero moment was he got to finally do medicine, in quotes, because it was for the doctor.
Well, he's the one who figured it's been a long time since he figured something, since they gave him something to do that showed his ability to do things. So yeah. He is the one because, and again, that's how the character moment led to them speaking their old dead language, which led to him realizing that the doctor was actually making sense.
Although I still don't get, and I still don't get even after Noga tried to explain it to me, how did the doctor, well, first he had a great hero moment when he revealed all season long, we've been wondering what creates the doctor. He still has the mobile emitter. Same one. It's tarnished. It's 1,000 years old.
He keeps it in his pocket now.
I thought, why doesn't he transfer it to his new 32nd century badge? Maybe he's nostalgic.
And how can Sam walk around everywhere?
Yeah, we still don't know what makes her work. There was a little bit of a hint in the episode when they recreated her. Remember, they kind of created a new little thing that kind of looked like a pill. And I think that is Sam. And she gets projected around that little seed of a thing, but whatever. Well, that's a question for another day. But so the doctor his emitter gets put into the ship. He creates the illusion. That was fun. That was great. And then he comes out and he starts babbling in this, where he doesn't make any sense. So my question is, how did he know what Starfleet scientists haven't figured out, how to figure out how to stabilize Omega 47?
Well, there's a bit of a clue. So here's my headcanon combined with that clue. When we see Vance and Laura Thok, and they're giving them their little 2 minutes of information, Laura Thok says, I've sent over all the files, including the classified files on Omega. So she has sent all the information to their ship, and then he is inside the computer.
But he did something.
So he had full access to all the classified files, to all the information. And so by the time he came out of there, he was able to put it together, which, it's a stretch if other people couldn't put it together, but he did get extra information.
So the question is, they stabilized the Omega 47. So does that mean they now have a new unlimited power source? Or by stabilizing it,
excellent question.
Is it not is it not powerful? Like, is it only powerful when it's slightly unstable?
Yeah, I don't know. Save that. We'll add that to our list for when we finally get the showrunners on our podcast.
We need to, we'll have to do an article of like 12 questions we still have. And that's definitely one of them.
That's one of them. And the hologram thing, mobile emitter.
Yeah. Well, where is Sam's mobile emitter? Or does she have one? Because she kind of the thing is, because she blips in and out, but she could be transporting her little seed from room to room.
But like, she went to the bar with them. Like, she's gone places. So
no, but that's all part of her learning to be a human being situation.
But she's a hologram. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, do they have holo emitters at the bar?
Yeah, but when there was an explosion on the bridge, the doctor was thrown across the room, so, they're inconsistent. Let's just put it that way.
Right. Which in some ways they always have, because sometimes people hit them and sometimes they don't. So
yeah,
it seems
does. This isn't worth too much. This episode actually had a decent amount of technobabble, and I liked how the solution to outsmarting Braca was a bit of science, right?
You knew when she started asking him, like, what were you mining? What's the deal? There was something brewing, but that was really well done. And his refusal to accept it too was great.
Right. And so she said he's a child with his hand on the button. And the first thing he did was push the button because he got angry.
Right. He got mad and he pushed the button.
Yeah.
That's what happens.
He attempted to kill how many billion? 150 billion? What was the number Vance said?
Billions of people.
Yeah. It would have been bad.
Because he was mad.
Right.
But he was but again, when you understood his story and what he had believed his whole life, it gave him a little depth.
And he didn't want to let go of that.
Right, because he'd built his whole life on it. And honestly, the same way like Anisha Mir was not ready to let go of her version of the story, which was, that woman ruined my life. And that woman happened to agree with her.
Yeah.
Right? Like, so I thought it was smart and nuanced and not always nuanced, but but emotionally nuanced and deep.
But Anisha I'm glad they weren't like Caleb and Ake were palling around at the end and, laughy, making jokes. But Mama Mir is not ready to high five Ake no matter what.
But they had that little nod.
That's as good as it's going to get.
It was a passing of the torch. I'm sending Caleb your way. Ake was good. You could tell her guilt had lifted to a great degree. She seemed lighter. She seemed a lot lighter.
I thought we were going to see Rillik because the Rillik was mentioned in the little crawl, and then Ake said the president wants to meet you. So we know that Rillik is still the president from Discovery, and they name dropped, the president, but there was no ceremony.
I'm going to guess I'd love to find this out if it's true. They probably, because I was lamenting that what we didn't get was a scene with the rest we saw the cadets, but we didn't see like where they were all going off to for the summer. They sort of didn't really have individual moments. They had a group moment, right? But then maybe there was originally a scene where there was some sort of ceremony or they all met the president, and then they realized like, we've done this too many times. It's also a famous Star Wars thing. Like maybe that's something that they had planned and then cut, which is why we didn't get like, where's Genesis going for the summer? What's Sam gonna do? Like, you know?
Yeah.
That's my theory. My theory is that it was cut and they had nothing to replace it with.
I mean, they ended with, well, there's two things. The one is Caleb's first log. I hadn't noticed. I wonder, like, has everyone, because I think we've heard other cadet logs. So have they been making sure that everyone got one except him?
No, I don't think so. No.
Because we know Sam's done one. And
Aaron has done one.
Yeah. So anyway, but he did his first one and he's on board. He's all in on, which opens up the question of what's his, you know, I mean, these characters need to have arcs for the second season. So, you know, he had a romance arc. They admit that they loved each other. So that's, you know, so he's got a girlfriend. They love each other. He loves the school. He loves his mom. He loves Ake. He loves his friends. He even kind of likes Darum, you know, so he's kind of done, but they're going to have to give him something new to some new problem in season 2, obviously.
Yes. But, you know, it all worked. It all made sense.
So they, you know, last week we were like, what's the chances of Disco showing up? I said it was 40-60. You said 60-40, whatever.
Yeah.
But
0-0.
They knew that, obviously, which is why within the first 5 minutes, like, oh yeah, Discover's not coming. Which
was smart. It was good. Like, let's get that off the table immediately.
But I didn't notice this until my like third playthrough. You do see Discovery. It's blink if you miss it. When the cadets are all having, you know, talking at the end, out of one of the windows, it flies by, or something that looks just like it. And because it's somewhat unique in the 32nd century, because all the other 32nd century ships have their kind of own thing going on. But they, you know, because if they meant for you to really feel the Discovery there, they would have done a zoom in, or, you know, it was.
Yeah. It makes sense that it would show up, and it makes sense that it couldn't. So I liked all that. I loved at the end when they do solve the problem, and the cadets, because they're kids, they're not kids, young adults. They're so happy. I loved all their whoops and their laughing, and I loved Sam sitting in Jet Reno's lap. And because I'm like, yes, they would have, because they're cadets. So maybe officers wouldn't be like, woo, yay, but they were. And it was so natural and wonderful and earned. It was a great, great moment. Like, it put a big, happy grin on my face.
And Sam, you know, it shows us that, yes, Sam is still kind of having this existential crisis of, you know, she's no longer ridiculous, but she's still childlike in a way, and she can still have fun. You know, she's not serious now. You know, she's just old, you know, more mature than she was.
I feel like she's wrestling with those things, which I find interesting. Like, because she's judging the person she used to be, but looking through these very harsh eyes at herself. You know, the way that you do when you look, the way I used to relive my day.
Yeah.
I was like, in terms of all the stupid things I did. And it takes some learning to teach yourself that is not a fruitful exercise.
So another question, I guess, is the whole thing with Shrima's inhibitor gone? Like, is she now self-inhibiting? Has she accepted that she's superpowered and she's just going to manage it?
I hope so. I think that's an interesting, like, because I always thought she was like Elsa from Frozen. And when I interviewed her, I asked her about that, and she also thought, she hadn't realized that, I think, until that moment, and then saw it. But I guess, are you a Frozen guy, Tony?
Was she held back by something?
So Elsa has powers, and her whole life she's been told to hide them, which creates isolation between her and their parents, spoiler alert, frozen people, their parents die when they're little girls, they're little princesses. And it creates a rift between the two girls who had always been playing because Elsa has to hide her powers all the time, which her parents told her to do. And she ends up, they get out, she runs away. And then eventually what she has to reconcile herself to is like, I have to learn to control these powers. They are part of me. It's who I am. And I think Terima is the same, that she has to realize, like, she got so afraid after hurting her father. And then she got afraid because she killed all those bad guys. What were they called again? The Furies.
You're asking me?
No, I'm talking about Terima now.
Oh, I thought you were talking about Frozen. Okay,
oh, no, I'm done with Frozen. I've moved on. So Terima, this is now a Frozen podcast. I had a daughter at the age where I watched Frozen like 8 billion times. Anyway.
What would we call it? Letting it go?
Let it go. Terima hurt her father with her powers and has felt that she only hurt people with her powers. And it's why Caleb was telling her last week, like, that's not how I see you. And this week he really was like, no, this is you. And it's part of what makes you special. It's not. Right. It's not a negative. So I hope that she loses that thing forever.
So she did a Deanna Troi in Nemesis, which is using, because remember,
attacked and mind raped by somebody.
Well, no, but remember when then she used it to find the scimitar. She was able to use her powers to locate. I guess she was locating the Viceroy. I'm sorry if I'm getting it wrong, but. Don't you remember they were trying to target the scimitar at the end?
I found that to be the ultimately most forgettable Star Trek movie. The day after I saw it, I couldn't remember what had happened.
Okay, well, we've seen a Beta Z use superpowers to locate a target before.
Sure, and she even knew that. I thought knowing the coordinates was impressive.
Very. Yeah.
That was like, okay, I'm not sure how she knows that, but okay,
sure,
because she wasn't like, go this way. Which is what you would normally do.
So, solid finale.
And, Braca was right that he and Anisha didn't get trials.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
They just got sentences. Like, he brought up some legit stuff.
Yeah, for sure. I guess during the burn, they went full Judge Dredd, where officers were given the right to just...
They just judged. And when he described Caleb as a hostage, and I was like, it is interesting when you view the exact same events through a different lens. And I do think that's what a lot of this was about.
Yeah, he has a point, but then he took it too far. Which again is kind of a modern thing. If you could always, when you see someone saying something that's ridiculous, the best versions of that is when there is a kernel of truth. If someone's just pure ridiculous, then they're just a clown and easy to dismiss. But if you could start with the kernel of truth and then twist it into something else, that's when it's really powerful.
Right. And it's a combination of twisting it and also just sometimes looking at it from a different angle. And what would it look like to someone who's on a planet in need and they see ships go by that are delivering supplies to other people? Yeah, you have no perspective. You only have your own viewpoint.
Yeah. It would suck.
Yeah.
I would have liked, but I guess they just didn't want to do it that way. Just a post-credit scene, just something about season 2, just something to hold on to for us to say.
Right.
So, something like wait till you meet the sophomore math teacher, he's
what? They've probably learned their lesson from that guy who's still waiting to be picked up to be the captain of the Enterprise.
Oh, yeah, the Vulcan captain.
Of the Discovery. Still just waiting. No one ever came. Yeah. So they probably wanted to, they did a cute thing with yearbook photos, but yeah, I would have liked that too, actually. But yeah, maybe, and it's not, they have a season 2, but it did make me remember that poor guy. Still waiting and waiting. I had a few favorite lines. I do like to reward them for their good dialogue.
Okay.
So I really liked when Jet Reno about the plasma leak, she goes, that was just me saucing the goose.
Yes.
Which is good. Genesis had a really good moment when Caleb starts to say, like, sorry, I said all those crappy things. And she goes, you're wasting your breath and ours, because they're all trying to hide. Oh, making the cadets hide, by the way, was great. It made sense that the adults would say to the kids, you have to, make sure they protect them, they hide them, and then they come out when they needed it. But I thought that was smart. I really liked when Anisha said to Ake, if anything happens to my son, I'm going to kill you. And Ake said, if anything happens to your son, you'll be doing me a favor.
The tension between those two was palpable. A good show, because you and I were, we've been around too long. We've seen too much TV. We've seen too much Star Trek. It's good when you just don't know where something's going.
Yeah.
I didn't know where things were going with those two. So that was good. Good writing, good acting, for sure.
Yeah, really great.
Rocket telegraphs his punches a mile away. You know where he's going.
It's part of his charm, I guess.
Yeah.
I have one question.
Okay.
About the Furfly storyline.
Okay. Yes.
Cadet Krebs, right?
And I think it's an Ensign Krebs, isn't it?
Ensign Krebs.
Yeah.
So Krebs there was a famous TV character. I'm just wondering if it's named after that character on an old show called, it was Dobie Gillis or The Loves of Dobie Gillis or something like that. And it was played by Bob Denver, who played Gilligan.
Yes.
It was Maynard G. Krebs, and he was like a beatnik. I used to watch this like at 3 a.m. on Nick at Night when I was in college.
I don't know. All I know about Bob Denver is I went to the same high school as him. And he was and my father went to the same high school, and my father was in the same class as him.
Oh.
Yeah. But
did he have any insights about Bob Denver?
No, I don't remember. I don't think he did. So,
this could be the Gilligan's Islands, to Dobie Gillis to Star Trek connection that we've been.
There are some other Gilligan, like there's some shared costumes with Gilligan's Island.
Yes.
So yeah, there are Trek connections to Gilligan's Island for sure, but I doubt it. Maybe, who knows? I
just kept thinking Krebs. Why is Krebs so familiar to me? And then I remembered Maynard G. Krebs. It's so random. Totally random.
Yes, but the Furfly was mentioned, but did not get.
It was replicated, and then it started
mating with itself.
Yeah, I don't know what's happening there.
Stephen Colbert, what did he say? That's just wrong, or something
Maybe
like that.
Maybe that's your tease for season 2 that you were hoping for. That's it.
The big threat, the villain for the season 2 villain. Well, we should write a whole article about it. The season 2 villain has been staring us in the face.
Is the furfly, the Talaxian furfly?
Well, not just one. I mean, it is a swarm of them. They are going to take over the Federation.
Oh, they're going to be gross.
Indeed.
Anyway, my overall thing would be, I really like. It made me want to be in Starfleet. Like every great Star Trek show makes me want to be in Starfleet, and I'm not a joiner, so. I thought they did a great job. All in all,
are you talking season or series? I mean, season or episode?
Episode. I mean, I've just been thoroughly enjoying this whole season.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of clunkers, but I think it's been a surprise season. I liked it more than I thought I would like it, and I think it has a lot of potential. And the characters are good, which is what Star Trek's good at, and they really did great casting. And they've got some backup characters, right? Like we didn't see some of our favorite backup characters.
We haven't seen Occam for a while, which made me sad. And I felt like he should have been in that final scene.
Yeah, no Kelrick, no Kyle.
Kelrick, I could have, War College, I could buy, okay, they're separate. But Occam's in the Academy, and it would have made sense for him to be with the gang at the end.
Gina came back, so we got a little bit of Laura Thok. We got some Dadmiral, which was good.
Yep.
Yeah, no, it's a great cast, great characters, and an intriguing setting. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what they do in season 2. And so let's play some interviews, because a lot of what I end up talking, especially with Noga. So this was just kind of a strange confluence of events. So I was last Sunday, I was at the Saturn Awards, and Noga Landau was one of the people who walking down the red carpet. So I turned it into a little bit of a postmortem, a little bit of a season 2 discussion with her. And then I didn't know at the time I was going to have another chance to talk to her with Alex. So on the site, we kind of combined those into one piece, but they were recorded at separate moments. So which one should we run for? Let's do chronological.
Play them back to back. Do you want to play them back to back and then we'll talk about them?
Which one should we do first? The red carpet one?
Yeah, do red carpet first.
Okay.
You probably don't recognize me, but I was on the other side of the phone last week.
Good to see you.
Nice to meet you in person. Oh, wait, I've got to adjust the height. Sorry. We're recording. Oh, it is. What's weird is how Saturns are so Trek-centric.
Yeah. It's so fun. It's fun to see all the Trek generations that are here.
Yeah. And it's not just because it's 60. They just every year they always do something with Star Trek, but this year a lot.
Yeah.
And I bet we'll be here next year talking about your nomination, hopefully.
Oh, that would be a dream. That would be amazing.
So let's talk a little bit about season 2. What do you see as the biggest difference between season 1 and season 2?
So season 2, here's what I can promise about season 2. We do a lot of episodes in season 2 that take the best things that we did in season 1 and just do it more. These episodes that are really character-based, where we go really deep with our cadets, with our instructors, where we have some real complex Trek dilemmas that come along. Like, we loved making episode like 104, for example. That's Jaden's episode. It's about the Klingons. We realized how successful an episode like that is in Starfleet Academy, and we really doubled down on that kind of an episode in season 2.
So, obviously, Paul was a big part of season 1, even though he was only in 3, I guess. Everyone constantly talks about him, though. But, we know he's not in season 2, because he told us that. But is there a meta arc and possibly even another meta villain? And maybe could you tease, is it a big name?
Oh, yeah. The villain of season 2 is not just a person. In a very classic Trek sense, it is more an impossible dilemma that we find ourselves in as Starfleet.
It feels to me, looking at... I'm going to ask you something about the finale we're going to put out after the finale. Sorry, are we okay? Okay, so, but the first episode you guys talked about child separation. The final episode, you have the bad guy building a wall, and he's on something that is, like a TV show, pontificating. Is there a political message here? Are you guys creating do you feel like there's a political allegory here?
I think that it's a universal allegory, like all good Trek really is. It should work in the time in which it airs, but it should work at any time. And I think the universal message of, don't separate children from their parents, that always works. Don't let a bad guy get the upper hand of you, and trap you in a wall or, go after you for the wrong reasons. Those are all timeless lessons, and it's a timeless story that we tell in season 1. I think people will definitely look at it and say, oh, this is about now, or this is about 10 years ago, or this is about 50 years ago. It's all relevant. It's how you interpret what you're watching.
But in making the show, are you thinking about politics? Are you thinking about issues? Do you feel the show has a message? Because there are people out there who are saying, yes, here are the issues you are putting words in your mouth. So here's your chance to say, this is the message I'm putting out.
I would say the truth is that there are writers' rooms that are much more political than the Starfleet Academy writers' rooms. What we focus most of our attention on is saying, are we honoring the vision of Gene Roddenberry? Are we honoring the 60 years that came before us? Are we properly showing what Starfleet would do, what the Federation would do under these various circumstances? And if people see themselves or see politics nowadays within the stories we tell, great, but they don't have to. Star Trek, we really do try and just make sure that no matter what, we are always cleaving to what Star Trek has always stood for and the values that came decades before the current moment.
So when we talked to you last week, you or Gaia or both of you teased that the season 2 finale was not shaped like a series finale, and even kind of, would you use the word cliffhanger?
I would say it is a cliffhanger. It is a cliffhanger at the end of season 2.
So why didn't you? What's interesting is you knew you had season 2 when you did season 1, but you didn't do like a cliffhanger or a post-credit scene or anything like, I'm just curious why. I almost thought you'd do it the other way around, because season 1 almost feels like, well, that could actually work. It's like he had his arc, he's now loves Starfleet, everything's fine.
Yeah, no, it's honestly because we listened to what our story wanted to be, and we went with it. We wrote it the way that it felt organic and natural, and I hope we get to keep making many more seasons of Starfleet Academy because we have a lot more story to tell.
How did the Doctor know about the gluons?
About the
gluons?
Well, he's been around. He's probably encountered gluons before. He was putting that science together in his head as he watched it unfolding. The problem is he couldn't communicate it because his whole matrix got warped. But he was trying to tell them, and he was trying to convey. And actually had great conversations with Bob Picardo ahead of time about what was going on in his brain. He was saying the words, but he couldn't. He thought he was saying the words, but he couldn't get the meaning out.
That was great.
Yeah.
It was great. Are we going to see the fur fly in season 2?
I hope so. To try and get that fur fly. That fur fly causes a lot of problems.
Obviously. Thank you very much. Nice meeting you.
So much. Great to see you.
See you here next year.
You got it.
I hope.
And at the season 2 junket.
I would love that.
Okay.
I'm good.
And the season 3 junket.
The season 3 junket. Thank you so much.
Good luck with that.
I just came from Buffalo.
Say hi to Alex. I don't know if he's here. Is he here?
First time, man. It's like a snowdrift.
I will.
Tell him Tony says hi. Bye, Noga.
Hey, man. How are you?
Good. Excellent. So you have limited time. Nice to see you again, Noga, on the red carpet just a couple days ago.
You too. You asked me a question about gluons on the red carpet, and I was like, you know what? I have more to say about gluons if we have time.
Sure. First, let's talk about how this episode, it feels like it's tying everything up, and there's a lot of callbacks to the first episode and bits to the season. So I'm wondering, like, how mapped was this season, or were there any things that were just kind of, last minute changes for either this or during the season that you kind of never thought you were going to do, but then ended up doing for season 1?
There are two answers. So the first is that everything that happens in the finale was always planned from the beginning. All that being said, the way we did it changed very radically about 2.5 weeks before we started shooting it. We kind of threw out our story and decided that beginnings are much easier, right? Because beginnings are, you ask a lot of questions, you throw a lot of mysteries up in the air, and you hook the audience by not answering them. But eventually that bill does come due and you have to answer them. And we knew that there was so much to pay off about what had been set up in the pilot and what had been obviously carried out throughout the season. And so Noga and I looked at each other and we just said, we're going to have 9 really great episodes and then one that isn't quite going to stick the landing. And we got to fix that. And we can either proceed by putting Band-Aids on this, or we can tear the Band-Aid off entirely and just say we need to rebuild the foundation of the story. And that's what we did. And so we ended up prepping off an outline and writing it. And the first stuff that had to get shot was the trial stuff. So we wrote those scenes first, and they kind of didn't change from the first draft, actually, which is a rarity. But there just wasn't time. And so we did pay off. There were no surprises in terms of what we wanted to say, but we did change a lot of the structure.
Is there a contemporary element, a message perhaps of using the trial structure? And what does it say? Are you putting the Federation and the ideals of Star Trek on trial in a way?
Yeah. Any institution should be able to hold up to the rigors of scrutiny. It should be able to win the trial, including the Federation. And that's why we believe so fiercely in the Federation and in Starfleet, that we are willing to put it on trial. And it's certainly been done before in previous iterations of Trek. I think there's also every generation of Trek has to have something to say to the world. And I think that right now we live in a world where people open up their social media multiple times a day and are told these guys are the good guys and these guys are the bad guys, and there's no gray zone and there's no nuance to any of the conversation. I think it was very important to remind our audience in this final episode that it's okay to sympathize with News Braca. It's okay to sit and understand where he comes from and why. What are the forces that made him? Why has he chosen brutality? Just as much as it's okay to question what Starfleet has done, to question the Federation, the difference to us in the storytelling is that the Federation is able to stand up to the rigors of a trial. It's able to use its own brilliance, to use science, to use its empathy to win. But someone with Moose Braca's mindset is not.
Right. But and the notion that it was broadcast and kind of, on some kind of, I forget, some news service that we haven't heard of. But what, was there a message there, I guess, of using, this kind of mass media to spread a message, as it were? Were you trying to send a message there?
I think we were trying to reflect in every way, as Trek, I think, does at its best. I think we were trying to reflect the way information is traded and travels today and how it can shape perception.
Yeah. Now, early in this episode, you guys threw out oh, Discovery's not going to come save the day. I'm hanging a lantern on it because I think, even in our review, it's and people are like, well, of course, Discovery's going to save them, but you guys keep on mentioning Discovery on the show, and yet we never see the ship. We never see Michael Burnham. It seems like there was a choice made that even though this is kind of a Discovery spinoff, we've never seen Michael or the ship, So can you talk about how much of a debate was that, why you chose to do it that way, and, will that flow into season 2?
It was never a question about whether or not Discovery was going to show up. That was never on the table for us. That we did not want to do that. The mentions of Discovery have to do with the fact that we're living in the same timeline. And if you're dealing with a problem as massive as what happens at the end of episode 9, which is, okay, everybody's in a box, the question suddenly becomes, why can't Discovery, which has the ability to jump through the mycelial network and get around this thing, not just show up and save the day? And the answer is because it can't, because it could actually set these minds off.
Right.
So it's more about if we didn't mention it, it would be weird, because anybody who was tracking what technology was available in the timeline would suddenly go, wait, why don't you just do that? But I think it would have been probably the cheapest and most unsatisfying ending in the world to have Discovery show up, because then our characters wouldn't have had to rely on themselves to solve the problem. Right.
So season 1, it feels like, going back to the premiere, that Caleb's, well, he hasn't completed his arc, but there's certainly a completion feeling of, he was reluctant, now he loves Starfleet, kind of. And I'm, is his story still a big focus moving forward, or does it become more ensemble-y, as it were, as you guys move forward?
Yeah, and there's actually something, it does. In season 2, it is much more ensemble-y, which is a great adjective. And
I just made that up.
Yeah, I think you just was very ensemble-y in season 2. But I also think to just draw another point of connection between an earlier point, Caleb's story this first season, I also think it's important for our audience to see a character go through the journey he has in learning that it's okay to love Starfleet and it's okay to become a part of Starfleet. I think that a lot of young people have been just hit with barrages for years of messaging that they need to hate certain groups of people. They need to mistrust certain groups of people. This is not unique to this audience, but it is something that is unrelenting for them because of social media. And I think that it was very important in the telling of the story to show how most of the time in the human experience, when you actually spend time around the people or the institutions that you've been told that you have to hate, that you start to take on a much more nuanced view of who they are. You see them as individuals. You see them as people with the best of intentions that you should be able to question if you have to. And that over time, you might even learn that your place is with them, is with people that you were told that they have to be your enemy. And that's also what makes Starfleet so enduring, is that there is a place for every single person or alien in the galaxy in Starfleet.
Okay. I'm being told that's it, so we'll just have to have you back.
Anthony, just ask one more. You have something else. What was it?
You do.
Okay.
It doesn't have to be about gluons. We can do gluons for
Maybe you and I can email about the gluons, because I'm curious. Well, before the season started, you said after you were done with the finale, you were going to start talking to the bigwigs about the future of Star Trek. So can you give us an update on that, and maybe give us a sense of what does Skydance want with Star Trek TV?
Well, I just wrapped the finale. So those conversations are happening. And what I can tell you, honestly, is that it's not just what does Skydance want with Star Trek TV. It's Skydance also just bought Warner Brothers. And so you have an unbelievable amount, like it's almost inconceivable, of organizational things to decide, right? They are in the middle of, it's not just drinking from one fire hose. There's probably 10,000 fire hoses. And
right.
So everything is just happening slower as a result of this massive time of transition. And that is not exclusive to Star Trek. That's across the board, right? And at the same time, they're moving as quickly as they can and should, right? Because they want to be thoughtful and methodical. Yes, I've had conversations with them about the future of Star Trek. Yes, we've gotten nothing but support. Yes, there have been specific shows that have been discussed. And we'll see, I'm truly at the I'm truly at the beginning of conversation with them now. And so I hesitate to say anything to you because I don't have anything to report yet.
Right.
But I can report that the conversations are happening.
Good. And when you say shows, you mean new shows or the shows you already have?
New shows.
Exciting.
New shows and the shows we already have.
Fantastic. Thank you, Noga.
Sorry,
I want to hear about the
Alex
gluons. I'll talk to you guys later.
Thanks, Anthony. Talk soon.
There's a lot of stuff in there to talk through. I mean, I really would love to know. I'd love to see what that finale was going to be like before they decided to change it.
I mean, it sounds like for the better, but but it's an interesting insight into their process that they made that call late in the season. But it's clear that he said two things. One is they did the finale they wanted to do. They just kind of came at it from a different angle, it sounds like.
Yeah.
But,
yeah.
The beats were probably all the same. They set up so many things in the premiere that were going to pay off. All that still happened. It is, I mean, I was pressing them, I admit. I wanted to get them to talk politics. You could tell from my questions.
Well, it's very obvious that that's what they were doing.
And it's such a, the show has become political. It just has.
Which, I mean, look, they just used to, I guess, hide it more. And like in the 60s, it was political. It was also fun and silly, and there were lots of fun episodes, but it was also political, and there was a lot of stuff going on in the 60s that they tried to talk about. But I think they used the sci-fi to hide it more. And here it's, when you're doing, headlines are streaming by, those kinds of things are obviously very much about today and without any disguise.
But the politics that people think this show is about isn't what it's about, I don't think. All the talk about woke and transgender characters, and I don't think there are any actually. And all the stuff that the trolls out there are attacking the show for are missing the actual political messages that are in the show.
Yes.
They think it's about this thing over there, the thing but that's only because that's the stuff that they're already hating on every day. And they're just saying, oh, Star Trek is doing all the stuff we hate. I think, certainly listening to Noga and, they're thinking more about the influence social media has on young people.
Mm-hmm.
And, fighting against that. I think that is a much bigger thing that they're trying to get into on this show. then, oh, look, we've got this cast and these characters who are different. That's just because it's a modern show about young people and it's going to have a diverse cast. They don't even think about that stuff. That's the funny thing. It doesn't even occur to them. They're not trying to do anything. That's just the way it is, because that's the way you make a show today with young people.
And it's how you make a show with young people, and it's how you make a Star Trek.
Yeah. So I actually like, when hearing her, and especially because I think social media is destroying our, the world in many ways. And certainly young people. And so I think, take it on. Take
Not
that
just
issue
young
on.
people, but yes, I agree. It's a huge, huge problem. And I also think not being able to look at our own institutions and judge them and examine them is a problem too.
A lot of good stuff in there about season 2. We knew that Newsprock is, Paul's not going to be back, and it sounds like there isn't a Paul Giamatti type person for season 2.
Yeah.
Wasn't clear exactly what she was getting at. I'm like, is this, because we've, the season 4 of Discovery had that kind of, the bad guy was a spatial anomaly, which later turned out to be 10C, but which would have worked better as an episode than a season. Yeah, right. But it sounds like they're trying to do something a little different than there's a bad guy. We did with Paul Giamatti. It's something different. It's the furflies, obviously.
They're everywhere. They're like tribbles now.
But the fact that they tied season 1 up in a nice little bow that would have worked as a series finale, but then just went for it, with season 2, like let's full on cliffhanger. I mean, that is
bold
for sure. Yeah, I would have done that if I didn't know I had another season.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't either.
And I don't think they think they're getting. I mean, they don't know. I really think from talking to these people, they genuinely don't know.
I don't think anybody knows. I don't think nobody's decided.
Yeah, and this was shot. This was shot after Skydance took over. They knew Warner Brothers was on the table. They knew Alex's contract was up. They shot this thing in February, a month ago. They could have changed it, and they didn't. So good on them, I guess.
We'll see how that plays out. My fingers are crossed. My fingers are crossed because I've just enjoyed this show so much, and as I rewatch it, I realize like how entertaining it is every step of the way. Like they've had a few sort of more targeted towards a younger audience moments that didn't work for me, but most of them did. Most of the episodes did, and most of the choices did. And it's just been a really fun ride. And I feel like I think Holly will want to keep doing it as long as they have a show. She seems to be having a blast.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And she gets to really stretch and do all her stuff. She's really acting.
And Tig really seems to be getting into it.
Tig just completely was the hero of the episode. She was fantastic. Like, she should have been the one getting some sort of kudos at the end.
Oh, for sure. Maybe they gave her the Christopher Pike Medal of Valor. What is it called?
I don't know.
Kirk has one, right?
And I have to go back to court martial where they start listing all of his accomplishments.
Anyway, solid season, surprising season. We're now heading into a hiatus. We don't know how long it is. Look for a interview with Henry on the site. I'm not going to spoil, but he predicts when he thinks season 2 or season 4 of Strange New Worlds is going to drop. So I'll have that up on the site by Friday.
Yeah, there's a lot more interviews coming. And next week, we are going to have our friend John Billingsley on because Trek Talks 2 is coming up. Trek Talks 2? Trek Talks 5. What the hell am I talking about? Trek Talks 5 is coming up on March 28th. So we're going to have John Billingsley on to talk about all the goodness that is coming our way. And we'll make him talk about Star Trek once we have him.
We've had John on a lot. And I love having John on. But let's open the door up to our listeners to suggest questions in the comments.
Great idea.
for this article. And it could be any John question, but Enterprise questions would be great, but anything for John. And do it on our site. Like, if people make comments on YouTube and on Spotify, we don't always catch those in time. We love when you make comments wherever you're making them. But if you really want to get our attention to do it in the article post on trekmovie.com, which posts at 9 a.m. Eastern, almost on the dot every week, Friday. So with the podcast.
Yeah, that's the place to make sure that we see your questions for John. And we've invited someone else from our team to join us who's never met John, so that'll be fun too.
Yeah, new member of the Trek Movie family.
Yes.
All right, time to say goodbye.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.